Welcome to the latest episode of the National Leaderology Association podcast. We're back speaking on navigating 5 leadership challenges. I am your host, Dr. Amin Sanaia, leaderologist, author, speaker, and coach. I'm joined by my brother here, Tanner Thorp.
How's it going? It's Tanner. I'm so excited to be back here to talk about the leadership challenges and habits and how we grow as leaders and mentors and how we grow leaders and mentors. I am also a speaker, a culture warrior, a thought leader, and just so excited to be back at it again.
All right, so let's tee this up. We will be bringing you thought-provoking, academic-based conversations on leadership topics in a pre-academic manner. This series of conversations is, like I mentioned, on navigating 5 leadership challenges. Let's recap the challenges. First one is inspiring, motivating your team. Second, navigating uncertainty and ambiguity. Next, addressing conflict and managing difficult relationships. Next, making tough decisions and taking bold action. And finally, nurturing a culture of innovation and continuous improvement. Today, we will be focusing on making tough decisions and taking bold action. Ooh, this topic, we were having a conversation prior to starting the recording, and I think this is very appropriate. I didn't even realize that we were kind of speaking a little bit about this, Tanner. So as we get started, I'm gonna post a question, and then let's go back and forth and really think through this question. So, decision making under pressure is a hallmark of effective leadership. When we look at that, what cognitive biases should leaders be aware of in high stakes decision making? And how can they mitigate these biases to make sure rational, to make more rational and effective choices? Let's dissect that a little bit. I mean, that's loaded right there.
Yeah, there's a lot in there, So yeah, I think one of the first things that you have to be careful of, especially in high stakes situations when you're dealing with cognitive bias, is are you favoring one side over the other or one person over the other, without really trying to get all the facts out on the table? Are you putting undue stress on a team member or a leader that usually does well under pressure and overextending and overexhausting them? Because what we know now, we used to think that people could multitask, right? But multitasking isn't necessarily the best thing.
No, it's not.
Really the best thing is to focus on one task at a time, right? And you can manage 2, but you can't manage 3. When
No,
you start to manage 3, you split your brain too much.
absolutely. I mean, you're right on point. I just want to say this, and I'll turn it back to you, is that um, yes, for a lot of time in our history, you heard that multitasking is great. You want to multitask. Well, when you're really good at everything, master of nothing, that's not good. And furthermore, research has shown that when you are multitasking or thinking that you're multitasking, you really are not, because you are really not doing any one thing at elite performing levels.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And not just the multitasking, but when you're putting so much, when you're delegating too much onto somebody, right? You have a higher propensity for burnout.
Yes.
You have a higher propensity for mistakes to
Yes.
happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going back and having to fix all those things, right? You may lose good people. The mistakes may cause detrimental harm to the business or the brand. So you got to be careful, and it's so easy to rely on your aces, but true leadership starts to find the uncut gems, right? The
Mm-hmm.
the coals that maybe a little pressure will turn into diamonds. Maybe they just need their shot to shine a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, what you're saying, it's right on point with us. At times, as leaders, we forget that we do have to develop people. And how do you do that? By what you just said, giving them the opportunity. We can't just rely on that person that it's always going to get it done, because then we get into one of the biases, and we're going to go through a few of these biases, is overconfidence.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have overconfidence, that means that you're overconfident on one person, and this person becomes that go-to person. This is going to lead to excessive risk taking.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the big one. One of the ways leaders can counteract this is by encouraging a culture of humility and regularly assessing and reassessing assumptions in their decision making. Don't be too overconfident and just relying on one person, or being too overconfident that that this is the way something is going to work out as. No, it doesn't always have to be that way, even though your experience says that the majority of the time there are those exceptions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another critical bias that I want to bring up, and I want you to give me your point of view on this, is confirmation bias, right? So
Mm-hmm.
confirmation bias, where leaders may seek or interpret information that aligns with their pre-existing beliefs.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That goes into the leader isn't always right thought
Absolutely.
process,
Absolutely.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So the best leaders that I know, best leaders that I've worked with, they want people to challenge their thought processes. They want people to challenge their decision making process,
Without a
right?
doubt.
So I know, and I've worked with very weak leaders, right, where they had to always be right. And they would say that they want you to challenge their decision making. They would say that they want an open forum, but they didn't. It really was more of a totalitarian dictatorship than we have the freedom to have a communal thought bank. And going back to what we were just talking about, sometimes the smallest voice in the room has the biggest ideas.
Oh, without a
They
doubt.
they just have to feel comfortable sharing them, right? They have to feel like they have a voice.
Yep. So I can share, I mean, from personal experience, and because I know a lot of people that are in this and similar mold. So in my early early stages of my career, I the personality that I am today is not who I was 20 something years ago. Um,
Same.
I mean,
Same.
I was no, I cannot believe it from you, because you are even more outgoing, a bigger personality than I am. But I was so shy. I had social anxiety really bad. So in early days of my profession, I was very quiet. All I did was absorb information, take it all in. I hardly ever spoke unless I was asked to speak. But I was taking it in, and my mind was firing, because my mind has always been like that. It just fires very quickly, and um, those people that are the quietest are the ones that you want to ask for their opinion, because they're the ones that are thinking through what you're saying.
Yep.
And you want that. You want
Yeah.
that different perspective, because sometimes the people that just speak because they want to fill space and time, they're not thinking through what you're asking or what the topic is. They just want to say what they want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big piece in my career. And I work with several people that are like that as well. It's just that's who they are. And they'll tell you is I just need a minute to think things through. I can't just give you an answer. I need to be have my quiet and think things through.
Yeah. You need time to process the information that's coming in. And especially in high stakes environment, because that's what we're talking about, high stakes
Yes,
environment, you have a lot of information coming at you rapid fire.
absolutely.
And in these high stake environments, the wrong decision made in quickness could cause huge error,
With
so it's important to take that moment to sit back and say, okay, what's the best thing to do? There's a saying by Pastor Andy Stanley, and he says, what is it? In light of my past experiences and my current circumstances, what is the wise thing to do?
wow.
And every time he's presented with a challenge, it is always, in light of my current circumstances and my past experiences, what is the wise thing to do?
Those are great words to go by.
Yeah. And I'm paraphrasing. It
Yep.
may be slightly different, but you know,
Yeah, no,
um,
the point is you're making the point, and we do because we do have to take into consideration our past experiences, but also what's happening at the moment.
yeah. Well, and I mean, you think about the story of Solomon, right? God came to Solomon and said, "I'll give you anything that you want." Right? Solomon he could have asked for riches, he could have asked for anything. And what did he
Absolutely,
ask for? He asked for wisdom.
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 Absolutely.
And God said to him, because you asked for that and not health or riches or treasure
Mhm.
or anything else, I'm going to give you all of it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But wisdom is that's the thing to wish for, right? And that's the thing to pause and to be
Mhm.
discerning and to not make rash decisions.
Without a doubt. So that reminds me. So I've heard I listened to a lot of Steve Harvey and his motivation speaking, and
Yeah.
one of the things that he always comes back to is that if I can have anything, it'll be to have a little more grace.
Isn't that a good one? Yeah.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. So to wrap up this bias, leaders should actively seek out diverse perspectives, like we spoke about earlier. Also, make sure that we are looking for those opinions of those people that are the quietest. We want to foster a more comprehensive understanding of the situation. And you can't do that unless we have the different opinions. So let's look at one more bias, anchoring bias. This is where decisions are influenced by the first piece of information received.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, let's get all the facts out on the table first.
Imagine
All right,
that.
let's get all the information before we have it. What's that saying? When there's an argument between two people, there's what the one person said, what the other person said, and then what really happened.
Exactly.
And you can't get all that information, or you can't understand really the context of what's going on until you have all that information. because we bring our own biases into our side, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't do anything wrong. How could it be me?
Mm-hmm.
And it's no different when we're working with anchoring bias. When you get that first piece of information, that's what you hold on to. And that goes back to what you were saying about listening. you know um there's people who they don't listen to understand. They're just listening to respond.
Yes.
All right, by the time you're done speaking, they've already decided what their question was before the first couple of words came out of your mouth, right? Or what the response was. That's
Absolutely.
that anchoring bias, and it can be so damaging.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, if we look at that as leaders, you're making high stakes decision, and depending on the type of organization that you're in, some of these decisions can be very costly to the point of millions of dollars or closing an organization. Uh, The last thing you want to do is make a decision on limited information.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially nowadays in the era of analytics with business intelligence, you want to have as much information as you can in order to make a decision. And the only way you can do that is by allowing the information to flow through, by being intentful in seeking out all the information. And that's our responsibility as leaders.
Right. I think also you have to recognize that there's a point of information overload too, right?
Oh, yes.
Like there's a point where too much information can stall the decision making process too.
Oh, yes. So, in leaders, we have different styles of leaders and people with different skill sets. So, you have the leaders that are going to make a decision and they're going to make it in the next 5 seconds, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
That's one extreme. And then you have the leader that needs millions, thousands of information and still won't make a decision. Um, we're not speaking um on those parallels. We have
Right.
to bring it more to the middle where we're gonna get enough information to make a decision, but not so much where it's going to cripple us and not allow us to make a decision. So you do need the information, and as you said, but information overload can hamper that as well.
Yeah.
So let's move on to question number 2 that we have on our topic today. So bold action often involves risk taking. How can leaders assess and manage risks while instilling confidence in their teams? And what role does resilience play in bouncing back from potential setbacks?
Mm.
Another loaded question.
Another loaded question. Well, and resilience goes to kind of what we were talking about before this podcast too.
Oh, yes.
Look, we're talking about high stakes business,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you have to be resilient in high stakes business, right? There's there is risk,
Mm-hmm.
and that risk can cost people their jobs, cost you your job,
Absolutely.
right? It can cost really tough conversations,
Yes.
and in that you have to have a level of thick skin. But I think when we're talking about risk taking and the effect it has on our teams, your team has to be able to trust you, right? Your team has to be able to trust that you're making the best decision with the best information that you have to create the best outcome for everyone involved, right? And that hopefully your team trusts you enough to know that when you do take risks, you're taking risks with them in mind also. It's not just I'm taking risk because I can, or I'm just going to roll the dice and see what happens. But
Yeah.
this risk is calculated,
Yes.
and the benefit is for everyone involved.
Yeah. So when you look at risk, one of the things that leaders that are effective and successful is that they take risk, but it's calculated risk, like you said. So they use effective risk assessment tools in order to be able to make decisions and have some realistic evaluation of the probability if the situation is going to be successful or not. And that's how leaders that are effective, they're able to do that. Because it is everything as a leader, every decision you make is a risk. I mean,
Yep.
some of them are minimal,
Yeah.
some of them are, very crucial, but there are risks in everything you do. So it having the proper tools and the proper assessments of the situation is going to help you as a leader ultimately um, inform you better, knowing that, hey, this is the risk level of this decision. Then it's up to you to make that decision or not.
Yeah. And I think it's also very important to have your brain trust, to have the as we were talking about in the first question with cognitive bias, to have the people that can guide you through that risk, right? Can help analyze that risk, are going to be the ones who say, this may not be the right move, or here are the things that could potentially happen with this, good and bad, and doing those risk analysis and using those tools, and again, bringing in the quiet voices that may see something that you're not looking at.
Yeah, that's really important. I mean, those are key points there that you're making. Now that looking at the second part of that question, when it talks about resilience and what role it plays in being able to bounce back from potential setbacks or real setbacks. So as a leader, you're making decisions. Not every decision is going to result in a success.
Yep.
Most of them are not. So when you try stuff as leaders, just know that you're not going to bat 100. It's just not real.
Right.
You're
Right.
going to fail more often than not, but it's those failures that are going to allow you to build that resiliency, that muscle. That takes time.
Yeah.
The more you fail, the more you build that muscle.
And the more
And
you learn.
yeah, and you need that. It's just
Yeah.
it's not only in your professional life, but in your personal life. For me, resilience, I mean, it's been one of the things that I've had to learn from very little. I mean, I went through so much at a very young age, but that having those hard times is what's gotten me to where I am today because I went through those hard times, but I pick myself up every single time. Fall,
Yeah.
fall harder, get up, fall, get up. And it's building that muscle. And leaders need to hear that. It is okay to fail. You will fail. That is a
Yep.
guarantee. But you got to build that muscle. Get right back up.
I was telling one of my team members the other day who was we were having a coaching session, and they were struggling, and I said, you know what, I just want you to remember you have a 100% success rate so far of surviving bad days.
Yep.
Henry Ford famously, he went bankrupt 3 times
Mhm.
before he developed the Model T and the assembly line. Which, I mean, think about our processing and manufacturing industry. If he would have given up at bankruptcy 2 or bankruptcy 3, who knows where we'd be at?
Absolutely.
Thomas Edison famously, failed at the light bulb 1,000 times.
Mhm.
What if he would have given up? You know, in my own personal life, just like your journey, there's been a lot of tough battles,
Yes.
and like you said, I've failed so many more times than I've succeeded. And it builds
Absolutely.
that resiliency. It builds that faith that I'm going to conquer. But what's the saying? I've got a lot of sayings today. You've been given this mountain to show that it can be climbed.
Yep.
But I like to keep fortunes that speak to me out of little fortune cookies.
Okay.
And one says, everybody wants the testimony, but they don't want the test.
Yep. Can't have it without the test.
You can't.
I mean, yeah, you have to go through those pains and the tears and the scrapes, all of that you need that in order for you to be successful. It's not going to work any other way.
Yep.
No one just comes right off the bat and becomes successful.
No, it never happens.
No, those overnight success, that's not real.
Cristiano Ronaldo said, it took me 17 years to become an overnight success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many shots did Michael Jordan missed? Final shots to win the game.
Right.
Over 700. He only made
Yep.
150, but he missed over 700. What does everyone remember? The 150 he made.
Yep. Isn't that the truth?
That's just the way it is. You can't have one without the other. That resiliency, you have to build that over time. That means you're gonna fail, and it's okay. Just know that it's okay.
It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. Right? It's not okay to fail repeatedly the same way.
Yes.
And not learn anything from it.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. I'm glad you clarified that for our audience and for myself, because I should have said that that it is okay to fail. It's not okay to continuously fail on the same thing and not learn anything from it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get the same challenges until you're able to learn. Until you're able to learn that lesson, you're going to get it.
Yep.
All right. So closing words here, Tanner.
Closing words. Well, we didn't even get to question 3. I was looking forward to the tough decisions.
You know what? Let's do that on the next segment.
Let's do it on the next one, because I got some good stories for tough decisions that leaders have had to make. And they're leaders that and they changed the industries that they were in. So
you know what? Go for it. Let's go. Question number 3. Let's not end it. Let's continue with the.
All right. Well, we'll go quickly through them.
Okay.
Right. So go ahead. Question.
All right. Drawing from historical examples and contemporary leadership studies, can you discuss instances where leaders made tough decisions that had transformative impact on their organizations? What lessons can today's leaders learn from these examples? And this is the Tanner Show. Go for it.
Well, okay. So first, we got to talk about Steve Jobs.
Ooh.
We can't have the tough decisions conversation without Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs was taken out by the board. Mm-hmm. They said you're mismanaging the company. You're gone. Well, then they bring him back as the CEO. Yep. And what does he do? He says, you know what? The products that we're doing, we're spreading ourselves in too many different directions. Right? This is 1997. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on computers.
Yes.
Then he decided we're going to focus on something called an iPod.
Yep.
And everybody was like, "What? Who wants to carry around music on their little iPod thing? Like, we've got CDs." Revolutionized the industry.
Yep.
and the decision helped helped Apple become the most valuable company in the world.
Absolutely. And then he did it with the iPhone. I mean, he changed the entire.
It changed the entire industry. So tough decisions. I mean, Apple was saying, "Look, this is our margin. Like, this is where we make our money." Right. Simon Sinek famously talks about the decision that the CEO of Blockbuster
Yes.
was trying to make. And he saw what Netflix was doing, and Netflix was the subscription model. And I actually remember that Blockbuster at the end, they tried to go to a subscription model. They tried to do because you would you'd pick out your movies on the computer and Netflix would mail them to you. And Blockbuster tried to do the same thing, but it was too late. It was too late. But the board made the decision that they couldn't do that because they made like 12% of their profits from late fees, right? They were counting on people's failures, which is what helped them to fail. Jeff Bezos. So this was a tough one. This was a tough one. So Jeff Bezos started at Amazon out of his garage, right? And it was just books that he was doing at the time. Well, in 2001, Amazon was really he'd grown, but they were really struggling. And so he had to make one of the most difficult decisions. And this is always a difficult decision. I've been a part of this in a couple of different times in my life where they had to do a reduction in force. They had to do a RIF. So we had to lay off 15% of his company's workforce. You know how hard it is to say, like, it's not your fault you're losing your job.
I'll tell you a story in a little bit.
Yeah, it's not your fault you're losing your job, but we have to let you go. And so he laid off 15% of his workforce, and it helped Amazon survive. And they were able to reevaluate, readdress, reassess, and build it into one of the most successful companies in the world. Coke was just beating the living heck out of Pepsi, and they have been for a long time. Coke is a internationally known brand. And Indra Nooyi, 2010, she came in and she said, you know what? There's a health movement that's going on. And if we take PepsiCo in a different direction and we start to focus on healthier options, we may be able to have a stake in this game. And it actually saved the company. So those are just a couple of just big, tough decisions. I mean, can you imagine a soda pop company saying, well, this is what we do. I mean, we make unhealthy beverages.
Right. And having to pivot. But those are the leaders that have the foresight of like, where, our company is going down the drain. What are we going to do in order to, help it survive, or what are we doing? And it's taking that bold action and making those hard decisions of, okay, we're going to risk everything, but we're going to try something different just so that we can survive. So when I mentioned earlier, when you were going through your list, that, having to do a reduction in force, how hard that was.
Oh, it's hard.
Oh, well, let me tell you, my friend, one of my hardest decisions early in my career, I was an assistant administrator and HR director, and it was on the time where healthcare was changing dramatically. It was late 1990s. The whole reimbursement system was changing, and no organization got prepared for it. They didn't have the foresight to think, okay, how do we survive this without, going bankrupt? And 90% of the industry went bankrupt. So it reshaped itself and come back in different, with different companies, different names, because they don't learn from history. But anyways, it was December 22nd or December 21st. The division president came down with the HR VP and pretty much told my boss and myself, we need to eliminate 40 positions by tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it right now.
Yeah, my heart's just churning in my chest.
Yeah.
So 3 days before Christmas, 4 days before Christmas. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's never an easy conversation.
Oh
ever.
no, I mean, so that the gentleman said that, and then and we're in a conference room. I went to my office, and then um I told my boss, yeah, this is not for me. I'm not doing this. You can have my resignation. I can be part of those 40. Just
Yeah.
give me a few weeks. Uh, give me a few weeks so I can get my look for a job, maybe get some separation pay, whatever. But yeah, good luck with that. I'm not doing this. And I didn't. I went home. Um, she called me back the next day and she's like, where aren't you at work? I'm like, I wasn't going to do that. Like
I
you
resigned yesterday. I was one of the 40. You got
yeah.
39 more to inform.
Yeah, and she's like, no, we talked, and I mean, they did a bunch. She did it with the VP of HR, but that was heartless. I just
Yeah.
that was just heartless. You mean to tell me that we couldn't wait until after New Year's to, make a decision like that, or do it? I mean, why would you do that right before the holidays to 40 people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable. I will
Yeah.
never forget that ever in my life. So
Yeah. Well,
I just wanted to say that.
and you know what? Again, I'm just, I just think the world of you. I am always so impressed by you. You're my brother, one of my closest friends. And
Thanks.
this is my first time hearing this story. And it again, what a testimony to what a person you are. You would sooner step away than do that to people.
Yeah,
And
I could just be one of them, and
yep,
I'll
yep.
go find me another job, but I'm not gonna be part of something like that. I
And that's why you're
couldn't
such a
live.
beautiful soul.
Thank you, but I
Yeah.
couldn't live with myself if I
No,
was part of that.
no.
Yeah. So, anyways, let me get off that soapbox. But yeah, I mean, I think you make some great points there, and the leaders that you brought up, Tanner, and it goes to show for people that are listening that think outside the box.
Yeah.
You don't always have to do things the way it's been done. A lot of organizations are changing, especially nowadays. We have artificial intelligence, okay, that is going to reshape everything we do. So that's
Mhm.
going to touch everything we do in our society and in our world. Embrace that. Think about the ways of how you can use that to have a leverage in your organization, in your field, because the people that embrace that are those organizations that are going to survive and thrive for tomorrow, because 2024 is a critical year in order for organizations to embrace that before it changes. We are in a renaissance time. This whole year is going to be about that. How do
Yep.
you use this AI to better your organization, yourself, and use it for good purposes?
Yeah.
All right, closing words there, my friend.
All right. Well, so again, we're talking about challenges and today we've talked about bias and the importance of leveraging every voice in the room and making sure that you are getting all of the information that you possibly can before you make tough decisions. We talked about resiliency and how important it is that you understand that you're going to make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to learn from your mistakes. It's okay to fail. You're going to get so much good knowledge. I mean, the valley moments are so much better than the mountaintop moments. They make the mountaintop moments what they are. It doesn't seem like it when you're in it, but when you get out of it, gosh, the lessons learned are so valuable. And making tough decisions, right? Thinking outside of the box and making difficult decisions can often have a greater impact on your organization and the teams that you lead and the leaders that you are growing, than if you were to just take the easy way out. So This has been an awesome conversation. I love these.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ami, for all you share, Tanner. I really appreciate the flavor that you bring to our conversations and the way you challenge my train of thought. So it's always awesome to have you. We'll continue to have these. So look forward to our future sessions. Have a wonderful one.
Yeah, thank you.